The courthouse smelled like old paper and disinfectant. A place designed to flatten emotion into procedure. I kept my voice low when I spoke to the clerk, as if volume itself might count against me. My daughter sat beside me on the bench, feet not quite touching the floor, swinging in careful arcs. She wore the sweater my mother had bought her last winter. Before all of this, because it was clean. And because I hadn't thought to choose something else, I told myself this was just a hearing. Not a verdict. Not yet. Words matter in rooms like this. My parents arrived together, earlier than us. They stood when the judge entered. The way people do when they're confident the room belongs to them. My sister slipped in behind them, eyes on her phone, then found a seat 2 rows back. She didn't look at me. I had practiced not needing her to. The case was simple on paper. Eviction notice given. Property owned by my parents, occupied by me, temporarily. The definition of temporary had stretched across 5 years, through a divorce. Through nights when my daughter slept in my bed. Because the house felt too big, through mornings, when my mother would knock once and then enter. Already talking. It was supposed to be help. It had always been framed that way. When the judge asked me to state my position, I did. I kept to facts. I had paid utilities. I had repaired the back fence. I had a text message, no an email, saying we could stay. As long as needed. I didn't say how that sentence had changed its meaning once my sister began touring open houses. I didn't say how the word, needed, had started to sound like a judgment. My parents' attorney spoke next. His voice was calm, almost kind. He said the house was intended to assist one child temporarily, and now was needed for another stability. He said, first home. As if that phrase carried a legal weight of its own. He said nothing about the timing of the notice, which arrived 2 weeks after my sister lost a bidding war on a place across town. The judge listened. Eyes moving between us without expression. He asked a few clarifying questions, he nodded, he explained how these cases typically resolved. He didn't say the word eviction like a sentence, more like a weather report. I felt my shoulders loosen, which surprised me. Some part of me had already accepted it. Planning is a form of control when control is otherwise unavailable. I had been planning quietly for weeks. My daughter had been silent the whole time. She leaned against my arm, warm and present. I worried about what she was absorbing, not the words, but the tone. The way adults can talk about a home as if it were a file. When the judge paused, my daughter raised her hand. It was small, hesitant, not the raised hand of a child eager to answer a question. It was the raised hand of someone asking permission to exist in a space that hadn't invited her. The judge blinked. The courtroom waited. He asked who she was. She said her name and that she was 7. He glanced at me. I nodded, unsure what else to do. Can I show you something Mom doesn't know? She asked. I felt the blood drain from my face, not fear exactly, but the sense of ground shifting. I hadn't coached her. I hadn't known she had anything to show anyone. The judge hesitated long enough for the bailiff to straighten. Then he nodded, briefly. He said. She stood and walked to the wooden rail separating us from the bench. Her shoes made a soft sound, too loud in the quiet. She held up her tablet with both hands, like an offering. The judge leaned forward. Someone adjusted a microphone. No one objected in time. She pressed play. At first it was just voices. My mother's voice, unmistakable even stripped of context, bright, purposeful. The date stamp was visible in the corner. It was from the kitchen months ago. My sister laughed, a sound I hadn't heard in a while. Don't tell her yet. My mother said. Let her think it's open-ended. We need her to stay put until you're ready. Another clip, a different day. My father's voice this time, lower, careful. If she pushes back, remind her it was always temporary. Courts care about intent. My daughter had filmed the tablet screen, playing audio she had recorded on my old phone, the one I left charging on the counter. She had discovered, accidentally, that pressing a red button made people stay still and talk. There were more clips. Not dramatic. Not angry, just planning. Timing the notice. Talking about my daughter's school year like a calendar into me, it's referring to me as emotional, and therefore unpredictable. The judge listened without interrupting. The attorney stopped smiling. My parents stared at the tablet as if it were a stranger. My sister's phone slid into her bag, forgotten. When the judge raised his hand, my daughter stopped the playback. She looked at me then, searching my face. I managed a nod though my chest felt hollowed out. The judge cleared his throat. He addressed my parents directly. He asked about representations made regarding duration. He asked about intent. He used the phrase bad faith once, and it landed like a dropped book. This was the moment. Not loud, not triumphant, just a clear pivot. He explained that proceedings would be paused, that documentation would be reviewed, that the characterization of the arrangement might change the jurisdiction entirely. He instructed their attorney to confer with them. He looked at me, not kindly, not cruelly, but with a recognition that hadn't been there before. We were dismissed for the day. Outside, the air felt different, thinner somehow. My parents passed us without speaking. My sister slowed, then stopped. She said my name once, uncertainly, as if trying it on. I didn't answer. I wasn't ready to decide what that silence meant. My daughter tugged my sleeve. Did I do something wrong? She asked. I crouched to her level. The question wasn't about the court. It was about the family. I told her no. I told her she had told the truth, and that sometimes truth changes plans. And that change can make people uncomfortable. She nodded, processing. Children are better at that than adults. The case didn't resolve that day. It didn't end neatly. There were filings and meetings and a mediated agreement that allowed us to stay through the school year. My sister's first home waited. My parents stopped calling as often. When they did, their voices were different, not softer, just less certain. Nothing was repaired. But something was corrected. On our way home, my daughter leaned her head against the window and watched the city pass. I drove carefully, obeying every light, as if order itself were a fragile thing I could maintain by attention alone. At a red light, she said. I didn't like that they talked about our house like it wasn't ours. I said, I didn't either. The light changed. We went on.